And we're live.
Wow.
Welcome, Bart.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. Thank you for coming and doing the fourth office hours of THT virtual podcast.
Really nice to be here. Yeah, it's been a while. Since we last saw each other.
I think that was the time when we were eating the fish at your place.
They're fantastic fish. Yeah.
Welcome everybody. I wanted to introduce you. Bart van Marsteveen is a good friend of mine. We know each other for a couple of years. Bart is a blockchain entrepreneur, and he's one of the Komodo ambassadors. Bart, maybe you can give a small introduction about yourself. Who are you?
Yes, like you said, I'm a blockchain entrepreneur, and before that I was actually active in open source and internet software development. So blockchain just was a logical next step, and it kind of attracted me because of of all the benefits that there are around Bitcoin, and so it really catch my attention, and then what a lot of people experience then once they start reading about Bitcoin and find out it's actually better money, and it's not in control of anyone or of any institution, but you can just have money as people together, and benefit from that, make your bartering more efficient with something that no one controls. That's really something that I really like, and I think it's showing that more people are liking it, because it's over the years became more and more popular, and the underlying blockchain technology that came out of Bitcoin is actually used in a lot of other ways as well, and I find that very interesting. So I read about it.
Yeah, we can see that that such big companies, banks like ING, they have already like a separate group of people who are working on a blockchain and crypto. Yeah, I have actually quite a few friends who are doing that for them. But if I may say that you're like one of the early birds that got into crypto, right?
Well, I think not really, because I heard about it pretty early in the existence of Bitcoin.
What year were you talking about?
It must have been before 2012 that I heard about it.
Okay.
Because I was still having my previous company back then. But actually, I didn't really get it at that time. So
it's not the easiest thing to get.
No,
let's put it that way.
No. So,
especially if you're doing like a research yourself. It's like a very thick forest,
Yeah. So I was basically perceiving it as a kind of digital money, and how can that be special, So I thought, well, it's interesting, but not more than that. So I just didn't think about it for a longer time. So, and then I think back in the midst of 2016. I was actually doing some research for a financial customer, a financial client of me, and then I thought, well, we have to look into this blockchain thing, and then I started reading again about Bitcoin, and then I did get it, and then you get addicted, kind of.
Yeah, 2016 is pretty late, but still, like in my eyes, I probably jumped on a blockchain wagon around the same time too. But it just I took it from the other perspective. You were more into like the monetary kind of system, and also like an alternative to the banking systems, alternative to different dApps and privacy issues that we have on social media. For me, it was more on a content side where, as we all both know, I started with Steemit, which is a decentralized social blockchain, and I started earning a little bit of money through making content, which for me was just bizarre. Something like if you compare Instagram or any other social media, YouTube, where you can incentivize your videos and get some rewards for it. It's a different process, like where on Steemit and the decentralized social mediums, you're being rewarded by the people themselves It's not that the views give something, but the people give you the value, and the value depends on them.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not an equal reward system. If you say in YouTube, everyone is the same. It's more or less a number: 1 view, 2 views. And where in decentralized social platforms, you kind of have like, if a whale gives you an upvote, he can give you $100 straight away, straight to you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting
it's amazing.
alternative.
I remember back in those days we were talking about it, and it's really amazing, and it's one of the cool things that crypto brings. So none of these kind of projects are perfect, but they give a glimpse of the future, and they give the enthusiasm, like, hey, we should experiment with these kind of systems more and more, because this is basically what life is about. We spend time, and we put energy into stuff, and then you want to get rewards out of it.
Feedback.
Feedback, rewards.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, rewards in all kinds of ways, and in the economy that we are used to, the old economy, so to say, there's always someone like taking a share of your rewards, basically. And if it's banking, or if it's YouTube, or if it's whatever, we can make it more efficient with systems like this, and so that's very interesting.
Something like Spotify, that they give 1 cent out of €1 to the person who actually makes the music. Yeah, crazy. But I mean, the numbers cannot lie. I think if I'm not mistaken, we have almost 1 billion people using these alternative crypto solutions and blockchains, right? And there's different kind of functionalities that are going there, from exchanges to games to I'm not sure, like even more serious programming, serious things that can actually help in, let's say, in hospitality, in security, in many ways, I think. For people who doesn't know what is blockchain, what is crypto, maybe you can give a small rundown, a visualization. Maybe if you talk about crypto, I'll talk about blockchain. I'll give the example about blockchain.
So, it's pretty. It's hard. Like I explained, the first time I heard about it, and I actually looked at it, and I didn't get it at all, because you have to imagine that it's it's actually the Bitcoin thing that got everything started here. Is actually replacing money. So you have to go back to the question, like, what do we use money for? And basically, we use money because bartering, exchanging goods, is kind of inefficient. Because you ate the fish at my place, and it would have been inefficient if you would take a whole pig in exchange, for instance, and I can't store it, stuff like that. So that's why we have money. But the problem with the money has always been that someone is controlling that money. And
the centralization of it.
And so someone or some organization has power over money, and we know that there is this weird thing with power. As soon as someone or an organization has power, they will misuse the power. That's always the case, actually, sooner or later. So with Bitcoin, we have a system where we share the power all together, and no one is actually
direct
we have
control,
the power to use it or to not use it. We cannot change the way it is.
If you start using it, you kind of get the ownership over being a part of this motor.
Yes, it's you become part of the ecosystem, but you cannot say, hey, I want a higher deflation, or I want to create extra bitcoins, or I want that Articus may not use it because I don't like him. So there's no way you can do those kind of things, and that is like really good, because then it's a money system
that's
owned by us all, and
therefore decentralized.
decentralized, and well, there's certain like technical, sexy things about it as well. But that's for for the normal people. I think it's not really important. This is the basic thing, you know. It's better money.
Yeah.
It's money next level.
Yeah. One thing that we try to do with the crypto and the people who are working on a different blockchains, they try to reach this point where crypto wouldn't be a headache of information, sort to say, but more a thing that people can use without even actually knowing that they're using it, right? That's the sort of end goal, that it would be just as natural as buying stuff with regular money, but then you just use a different card or something like that. Like you have with Virex and Revolut, all these kind of alternative ways to have a bank card in which in the application on your phone you can just exchange your cryptos into euros or whatever other fiat and just normally use it in a shop, which I did actually after spending time on Steemit for a year. I actually paid my whole trip to Krakow and the festival of Steemit that I was there.
And you bought a camera equipment stuff from that. So that's really cool, and there's a lot of innovation there. We can use like multiple coins and systems to do that. But I think the essence of Bitcoin in this case is that the Bitcoin is a nice starting point because it's sound money, it's hard money, like gold is. And so if you like put part of your wealth in gold, or your grandfather has done that, you know, then it's basically worth the same then as it is now. And so if you would measure it in euros, it would be way more than at the time of your grandfather. But if you would measure it in like how many houses can I buy with this gold, it would probably be about the same. So it's a really good store of value. And how about Bitcoin? As long as we, the people, decide it's a relevant system, it has the same aspect, because there is 21 million Bitcoins in the end, or in circulation in the end, and so it's already defined.
That is the max supply,
maximum,
right?
The max supply. So we're now somewhere between 18 and 19 million.
Oh,
I thought, or 17 and 18, but
it's almost at the end.
It's almost at the end.
Happy Bitcoin halving. We just had the halving.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but we know, you know, so the inflation, we know up front what it's going to be. So that's kind of certainty that that people want, and so you know exactly. So there won't ever be more than 21 million. So that's a good way to store your your wealth.
Because it's like an investment at the same time.
Well, I would not say it's an investment. I would say it's you work for a company or for a client or whatever, and you get paid. And part of what is paid to you need to spend immediately because you need to live, and part you want to save for later. If you would save that in euros, you know, they print euros all the time, and they aim for inflation to happen, and but it's not like equally distributed, this inflation. So we see a huge inflation, for instance, on stock markets, and we see less inflation on technical products, for instance, because they are calculated in a different way. But in the end, your euro becomes worth less
compared
and
to
it's not fair because you worked for it.
You worked as hard.
And it's so you need to protect yourself from people printing money, because basically printing money is like taxation.
It's like one of the...
It's taxation without the proper democratic process of I agree that we should be taxed on this or that. No, there's a central bank deciding that money needs to be created, and so it's kind of sneaky.
It is. It is. You know, like one of the great poets said, you have to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So, so gold and Bitcoin are kind of safe havens for wealth that you don't need tomorrow or next month.
Just to have a bit more visualization on what is blockchain, I really like the comparison of one of our old colleagues that she always used Monopoly to explain blockchain, how it works. So when you're playing Monopoly, you sit around the board and you can see all the transactions happening, so you can always know how much money and what kind of wealth the person has on a Monopoly table, right? But then when you take a step further, imagine that you're sitting at your house, I'm sitting at my house, somebody sits in Utrecht, another one sits in Leiden. We all want to work or want to play this Monopoly game. How can we make sure that that we know what kind of wealth or money, how much money the person has in the game? So the blockchain represents sort of an Excel sheet where every single transaction, every exchange, every buy in or sell in, or you pay for your hotel or for the train station, is recorded on this Excel sheet.
Yeah.
And it says who did what. In essence, blockchain is that. It just registers everything, and the transparency of it gives that trust probably to the people to know if something went wrong, they can always look back what happened and what affected them, right?
Yeah, it's like a balanced system, which cannot be out of balance. So you have all these miners checking
accounts.
Well, actually, they're building on top of what's already there, and they're checking the new block if it's also like correct. So it can't be out of balance. So that's a good thing. So, but that it's transparent is actually, I think it was needed, to get people to understand how it works and to go finally to a next level. But transparency in how many bitcoins are with Artakush and how did he spend them is not something. It's not a goal in itself.
No.
But a secure system which cannot be out of balance, that is a very important aspect, of course. And now we have these new systems that shield the entire information. It's still the same concept. It's still always in balance, and they use this zero knowledge technology to shield everything, so people cannot see your wealth and not see how you spend it. Because that's, of course, it has serious drawbacks if that is the case.
Absolutely, that's one of the things that most of the companies and projects are looking forward is transparency and trust. Trust is, I think, one of the top ones that is on the beginning of the list. Corona, what an interesting time, huh? Would never imagine that we would live through this. We were gonna have to tell our children. I used to go with my friends to the festival where hundreds of people used to gather.
Yeah.
What happens in the Corona crisis? How crypto and blockchain reacts to that? What is happening in crypto in this moment? How does that affect the blockchain and crypto world? Yeah.
Well, I think it all started already before the Corona crisis. There was already in November. There was this repo crisis in the United States with the Federal Reserve Bank. Yeah. So there was already a big financial unrest, so to say, and everyone involved in crypto and Bitcoin, they were kind of like waiting for a black swan event.
Yeah,
like that's how they call it. And then, of course, the first signs of something like a virus in China were already on Twitter as well. But basically, in January, February, it became clear that there was this terrible virus.
It's a whole pandemic.
And so that's like, it's like Murphy's Law, you know. So it was already like really, really stressed out on financial markets, and then this comes on top, and you think, we can never survive a crisis like that. So I think that's also why most, at least Western countries like the Netherlands, first thought, well, maybe we should just pretend it's not happening, you know, and then maybe it just goes away.
Yeah.
But it didn't go away, and it adds big problems for the financial sector, on top of problems they already had, and for a lot of people, of course.
Yeah.
So, but not unexpected for people in crypto. You know, we are even before crypto.
This is what you were like.
Well,
that's why you put yourself into crypto, to kind of overcome this kind of situations where you're really reliable on the banking systems, and like the subsidies and everything. It just drained the money out of the governments, and you can see that overall. And I think, like, it's very interesting how did the Corona crisis affected the cryptos and the blockchains. Did it actually give more visibility to people? Did more people got into it? What was the reactions there?
Yeah, well, so I think that, like, it's a Murphy's Law for financial markets of the old system. You know, like everything goes wrong. What can go wrong, so to say? And banks were already almost bankrupt, especially in Europe. And then this comes on top. You know, so that's it's really terrible. But on the other hand, we have this Bitcoin system that just went through bear market, and was ready to gain traction again. You know, the bull market had already started, and there was a Bitcoin minor reward halving. We celebrated that a few weeks ago, and which means that basically the inflation that happens on Bitcoin. You know, we knew up front that it would be halved this year, and it did halve. So basically, what it means for the financial markets of Bitcoin is that miners that are mining Bitcoin, you know, they get these rewards once they mine a block, and then part of the rewards they will sell on an exchange to pay for the electricity bills.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and some miners had to sell like almost all their Bitcoins to do that, you know, because they were less efficient miners and less efficient miners. So those miners, well, they can't pay their bills now after the halving with the Bitcoins they get from the block. So they just shut down the machines. So. But what it means for the financial markets of Bitcoin is that less Bitcoins enter the market. So it takes a little time before markets react on that, but it just means that the pressure on the price will be that it's moving upwards. And I think there's a lot of media coverage on the halving, and there's a lot of media coverage on the creation of money. You know, people, because of the Corona crisis, on top of a financial crisis, a lot of people outside crypto as well are starting to think about the monetary system, and like, hey, what's happening? You know, there's people in the United States are like creating
gazillions,
3 trillion something,
and then giving
like,
out to the banks in Europe.
And the same in Europe, you know, and they're talking about just creating money without any debt behind it. Even so, and people read papers, you know, and they start to think like, hey, what should I do? And
doesn't feel sustainable.
It doesn't feel sustainable. So, of course, they will try to benefit the rising stock market as well. But I think they diversify more and more, and they put some stuff in gold, and now they actually are putting some of their wealth in Bitcoin as well, and so that's very positive on top of already positive movement in the Bitcoin markets.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing that Corona crisis helps to do with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin usually is like also like a motor for other
absolutely,
for other cryptocurrencies.
You can see the tendencies of the so-called altcoins or coins.
Exactly.
I know that you're an organizer of Blog Bar here in THT.
Yeah.
How does it go with the Corona? How can you safely organize these group meetups?
Yeah, so I think we were one of the first actually here in the Hack Tech building to say, well, let's be precautious and not stop organizing the physical meetup, which we did every Friday here in the Hack Tech. But let's move to a virtual meetup. So we thought if we start in time, we have time to experiment with the different technologies to do that. And so one of the things that we came to use was Mozilla Hubs.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about Mozilla Hubs is that you can kind of create your own like physical space in virtual reality. People with VR glasses can join, but you can also join with your laptop, and it feels very natural, because if I stand close to you, I hear you loud. If I stand turned like this, I hear you in my right ear. If I turn myself like that, I hear my left ear. So it's
and that's with the VR, right?
No, it's also on your laptop.
Also on your laptop.
Yeah. So it's it feels very natural. So it's a way more natural space to be in than, for instance, if everybody would be on Zoom or whereby.com is also a
Blue
product
Jeans
we use, or Jitsi.
There's so many of them. You can see the tendencies, especially in the last 3 months, of innovating the technical communications between company employees or whatever, group meetups, etc., congresses, festivals. There's so much new ways being kind of thought out, how you can change this kind of physical way of interacting into virtual way, but then to make it as close as possible to something that you could feel the people around you, right?
So that's really cool. So we like Mozilla Hubs the most, and you can, because of the natural feeling, so you can present in Mozilla Hubs. You can put your slide show in the room. So we create a special place for that in the Block Bar space. You can put your slideshow there. Other people can put links or images beside it, and you can present. People can ask questions or ask questions
just
with the chat or just talk. Feels very very natural. So of course there were some glitches, like not all laptops immediately work. Some people have to log in multiple times before it works. So it's not perfect yet, but it's fun. It's fun to do, and we're looking into like how can we organize a bigger event like this with this technology like this, and keep people focused, because we also experience that if you are in these kind of meetups, it's kind of exhausting, more than physical. Because
you can also lose your concentration. It's not sitting in front of the person.
So it's we need to find new ways to do that, and but I'm also looking forward into return to physical meetups again.
Absolutely.
But it has to be safe, But before the Corona hit the Netherlands, yeah, well, I had so much like meetups and other
Gatherings.
in a week that would not be responsible now.
No,
Even
absolutely.
there's still too much infections happening in the Netherlands, so you cannot just shake hands with everyone like you used to.
Yeah.
But but it's interesting, and we'll learn and we'll find new ways to do it because we want to exchange ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
all the
People
time.
cannot live without people. You can see
No.
that in the parks.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't care.
No.
They're just there, three
Yeah.
families all sitting,
Yeah.
children out running
Yeah.
around. Nobody cares. It almost feels that you have even more people at the beach and in the parks now than before, you know?
Yeah,
It's a very weird thing.
It's one of those essential things that we need. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
And then,
first 2 weeks, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit at home and then, I cannot handle this. I need people.
Yeah. So, but I think we're now like connecting with small groups around us.
Yeah.
Like our dearest ones.
Yeah.
You agree on having a closer contact with them, and if everybody does that, it's still kind of safe, But it's different than before Corona, where we like shook hands with hundreds
Absolutely.
of people
Yeah.
every week. That's something. We
Imagine
should,
going to
avoid.
discotheque, during Corona, and everybody's just like standing like this.
It's gonna be awkward. So, but I want to go back to the Bitcoin and stuff reacting on the crisis as well, because
Sure.
I think what's very interesting now is that we have these old economy people, like let's say the boomers, but it's bigger than that, of course. But people who are used to trade in stocks there's a big group of people like that, and they will probably put wealth in gold now and silver because they know this kind of markets.
Yeah.
And they expect that to be like kind of stable, and they still want to benefit money printing because that goes a lot to the stock market, and I think it goes higher and higher. So that's one part of the people, but we also have and in crypto you have a lot of them let's call them the millennials, but it's bigger than just millennials, but let's just keep it simple. And these people are raised digitally. That's just like my kids, as soon as they could touch things, I put keyboards in their hands, and they had screens, and they could write their
essays and everything.
Yeah,
just in
they
computer.
could write like simple commands in Minecraft before they could write with a pen.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's that's funny. But that's the generation, that's used to crypto. They get it. They think it's logical. They think it's normal.
You can almost feel that the generations are not 10 years anymore. It's much more faster.
Yeah.
It's like 3-4 years, and you can feel already the difference that the people who are raised early, like nowadays, just growing up like sponges. They get the information like it's normal. Something like I mentioned, it's the new generation's kind of new rules. They're learning completely different ways that how we were raised. Mm-hmm. We grew up with the internet starting, and they were born in the peak of it. Yeah. You can say it like that.
Everything was in a slower pace when we were raised, and yet if you were interested in something, you thought, okay, well, I'll read a book about it, and then a few weeks later you knew about it. And now that it's just instantly there, they Google it, they read it, and they act, and they're just so familiar with crypto-like dynamics, and that's really interesting because there's a lot of things they cannot do because of the old system. They cannot buy a house. They cannot save euros because of inflation and rising costs everywhere. But they can play with these kind of technologies, and they can like build up wealth in projects like related to Bitcoin technology. Like for instance, you found out that you could earn money using Steam. So that there's more happening now, and I see a huge wave of decentralized finance innovation in Ethereum community happening.
You're also one of the founders of CoinCollect, which is a crypto exchange, right?
Yeah, it's a crypto exchange to be. It's a multi asset or multi-coin wallet.
But you can actually buy Bitcoin through your app, which I did also. And it's very cool because it's very simple application. It's secure, and you can just buy it through Ideal directly with a Dutch card.
But
one of the things with the Bitcoin and everything is that it's often hard to get to it properly.
Yeah. So our aim was to actually make it very, very easy.
Yeah.
To get it, in which we succeeded. But unfortunately, we have this new regulation, and there was actually lobbied by the banks, and they just thought, well, it shouldn't be too easy to get to crypto, So they found Wopke Hoekstra willing to pass a law to block easy buying of crypto. So now we have to rewrite the buy option there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but and of course, our CoinCollect wants to stay non-custodial and wants to stay like completely outside of regulation. So we work with partners if you want to buy Bitcoin, and we want to make it very easy. So the first gateway we had, and with which you bought your Bitcoin, you didn't have to run through KYC, which is know your customer regulation for people who don't know that.
Yeah.
And so you didn't have to upload your passport or whatever ridiculous.
It was literally download the app, back up your seed. You're there.
Yeah.
A couple of buttons later, you already have Bitcoin.
Yeah. So it won't. In the Netherlands, it will never be as simple again as that, because it's now forbidden to do that. So
and that's why actually people are looking for these alternatives, because banking systems they wouldn't allow these kind of things to happen, to happen so easily. So they're protecting themselves from these alternatives, which are very promising.
Yeah.
And you can see that they're doing this thing already for the last 10 years. Only the thing is that now it only becomes a bit more popular with all the other different crypto projects and functionalities of what they bring.
Yeah.
It's just amazing, and that's the fight that you see. Like 10 years ago, maybe there was 100,000 people who were interested in Bitcoin or knew what is Bitcoin, and when you think about now, there's so many different projects through gaming, through social securities, privacy coins, you name it, and it just grows, and there's over 1 billion people who are using these alternative ways. So that means that there is a need for that. Only it's not as popular as Justin Bieber at this point.
Not yet. But, so this
we're still playing on the guitar on the steps somewhere with the crypto.
This whole Corona crisis, it can be accelerator for these kind of things, because and we come to that. It's logical to come to that subject now. You can make things like local. You can have local projects. You can you can skip the old system completely. So while we were first thinking, okay, with CoinCollect, it's important that you can actually earn euros and then convert them easily to crypto. Which will still be important the coming years, probably, for a lot of people. But millennials will, forced by this crisis situation, they won't scare away from why not just earning in crypto. Then I don't have to go through this all fiat gateway thing.
So crypto power, right?
Crypto power, And so that's why I said, okay, the Ethereum decentralized finance projects happening there is like really, really amazing, you know, because Ethereum is the second largest blockchain in the world in terms of users and developers. In terms of developers, probably even the first, you know, so because there's a lot of developers working there on all kinds of innovative stuff.
Yeah.
A lot goes wrong, but a lot of stuff goes right, you know. And these millennials, you know, they have a different view on this kind of projects, you know. They don't view it like the old grumpy man, you know. They say, there's a lot of stuff going wrong there. And the millennials think, well, everything is going wrong in the old system, so there's also a lot going good, and I like it. So I want to try it. So they play with it, and there's a lot of beautiful stuff coming out of there, and so there's also alternatives there for insurance, for investing, for all kinds of things that are also like money saving or money generating, and it leads to people earning crypto with crypto. And so then you don't have to go through these fiat gateways, and if just not, if there are enough people like accepting crypto as a means of payment, you can just skip the whole old system.
Yeah, the fiat system. Yeah, that's I know quite a few people who are actually working as a programmers, getting money in cryptos, and it's much more stable for them to do that because they can just save that, and if they need to use something, they exchange it, and they move along. Would you say that crypto and blockchain technologies are now inevitable for the future?
Yeah. I would say that, and of course it depends on the country in which you live, how far you can go, and how good the technology will be for you. So it's also technology with which a dictator, for instance, can make flawless systems of repression. Then still blockchain technology will be important, but in a negative way. For us free people, you know, there is you need technology which enables you to protect yourself from politics and stuff like that. And
for this kind of negative impact.
For negative impact, like inflation that we mentioned. You know,
the systems that you don't really have control over it, and you have no idea what is happening behind the gray wall.
It's just not fair that people inflate your wealth without consulting you up front. So that's and you can protect yourself using technology, and there's the same technology can be used to protect yourself from way more stuff, and I think that's going to increase. So we haven't found out not even part of not even less than 1% of everything we can do with this technology is being discovered yet. So it's pretty, but I'm quite sure that it's pretty amazing that what you can do with this technology, especially also if you add these zero knowledge proof technology on top. You know, you can also make systems that shield almost everything in a very successful way. And still be trusted. And there's so many applications that can later use this, and we can't even think of them right now. So yes, it's going to be important, and I want it to be important as well, because I want...
Important, but inevitable?
inevitable is
I think it will be just inevitable. I think especially with the
inevitable in a way that there's no one. If you are living in a free country, no one could say you cannot use Bitcoin, for instance.
Yeah.
So but if you are not if you are not living in a free country, those things can of course be criminalized and make huge penalties, and then it can then it's a different story.
What would you?
But let's assume that we just stay in that the Netherlands stays a free country. Then it's inevitable, right? And but I also want it to be used because I think it's fair that if we have a bartering system,
that you have some choices,
and we have a better alternative now.
That you have choices, that you don't have only one thing.
Bitcoin is just innovation,
Yeah.
and it's not innovation like it's a better system than the SWIFT system. Now it's innovation on money.
Yeah, it's innovation on
it's innovation on the
monetary
past
system,
1500 years or 2000 years on money. So it's an innovation on that part, and we just it's just a basic right that we the people decide that we are going to use the better system. But there's a lot of work still to be done because we have to. Of course, because we started this whole podcast, and we are social creatures, So we the humans, you don't live as a person, you live as a group,
as a community,
and everyone has to agree that this is indeed a better system.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of work there's a lot of work that we still have to do. Of course, new generations grow up with this, so it will be easier.
That'll be the new normal for them.
Yeah, probably. But still a lot of work to do. So that's why also the meetups are like really important, because you need exchange of ideas, you need people experimenting, people finding each other in starting new projects.
Yeah.
It's really important.
So what would you say? How long it would take before like non-profit companies and schools will start accepting digital currency to support, let's say, their schools, or support the activities that they do, or stichtings supporting the volunteers that are working there?
Yeah. Well,
5 years? 10 years?
Well, there is. It's hard to define what is now defined as digital currency and whatnot. In effect, the euro we're using is a digital currency,
digital,
of course.
Well, I'm talking about crypto.
I'm suspecting that banks will offer
they will adopt
Bitcoin. They will offer Bitcoin accounts, and they will hold your Bitcoin in custody for you, so you can't lose it, stuff like that.
That's also not really good, right? Because I think what would it help? It's like you kind of go through the other channel of not paying a big piece of that money to the bank or to someone that's managing the money, like kind of having these kind of direct input on a.
Yeah, the thing is that now people buy Bitcoin because they want to speculate on the value to rise. So that's also a weird kind of. It's not what money is meant for, So that's also kind of weird. So they could do it by just buying it at the bank. I think it will happen. I'm not sure if it's good or if it's bad, but I'm quite sure it will happen.
Yeah.
So they don't have to bother with the tech because they're not interested in the tech, and they're not interested in people's money. They just think, it's going to increase in value. But at a certain point,
there's a demand supply kind of, like people will want to get it, and banks will have to facilitate that because otherwise they're going to lose
exactly
a big part of the money.
Exactly. Then it becomes more accepted, and then it becomes easier as well to
popularize
to
it,
mix,
also mainstream
to
it also.
mix all kinds of financial flows. I mean, gold is very important store of value in the world, you know, and everybody recognizes the importance of gold. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you want to support your local local foundation helping the poor, you're not going to donate gold.
Yeah, but that's why I actually ask about how long do you think it will take before all these non-profits, schools, and etc. can adopt this, because you are actually in one of these projects called Hari. Maybe you can give us a little bit the concept of Hari.
Yeah, concept of Hari, I think almost well, it must have been like 18 years ago or something like that. I was intrigued by the books of Bernard Litter, which is a guy from Belgium. And
Hari?
And he
this
wrote.
This is not Hari. The Hari is the last one, I think.
It's the slideshow.
Yeah. Jonathan behind the camera. I just wanted to say also, everybody who's listening us on YouTube and Discord, if you have any questions that you want to ask Bart, or you have any feedback, you can do it in the THT audience chat, and you can also give us a comment on YouTube. Smash that like button. Sounding like a boomer.
Yes.
Smash that like button for us to help the YouTube algorithm.
Exactly.
So, Hari.
Yes. Bernard Litter. I was talking about Bernard Litter, was a kind of inspirational guy. You know, he was in the days long before Bitcoin. He was already like painting pictures of the future, of the monetary future, so to say. And those pictures were like kind of depressing. You know, he was already then analyzing that the system was actually broken, and there were ways that the system was evolving, or how it would evolve after a kind of monetary reset, which were like dark scenarios, really dark. And there was only one or two not so dark but kind of positive scenarios, I remember, and those seem like impossible, because you would need all the people, you know, to accept a whole new system without the government promoting it. I thought it was like, that would be like really, really weird. It will probably never happen. And then Bitcoin came to light, and I didn't even click back then. The first time I heard about Bitcoin, that it would be a system that was actually, well, not described in his book, but it was more like what he was pointing to as a positive thing. And I think he didn't click himself in the beginning as well. But so later on, 2017, I think there was this ICO of Bancor. You might remember, it was like one of the biggest ICOs in that year.
ICO is initial coin
initial
offering.
Coin offering. It's like, you present your project and you ask everyone to buy your coin, and with the
for
money,
a very good price.
For a good price, and with the money you raise, you build your product. And they were proposing a really easy way for people to create coins, to create or tokens, or they're basically tokens, but to create like small economies. And it was an idea very much liked by Bernard Litter, so they even got him to Amsterdam at a certain point, and I was there. It was really nice to meet that guy that I read some books about. And so once again he was telling his ideas, that he thinks that local currencies have a value, have the power also to change local dynamics, and it's good to have a lot of local coins, because in the end, you can glue it all together. Well, it's
also the
the
markets.
aim, the aim of coin collect
Yeah.
like that you can swap one coin for the other. So
Yeah.
it's also it doesn't it doesn't limit you, but it gives you the flexibility to act local with a coin. And so one of the examples that you can also still find on his website, because he passed away last year, unfortunately, but his website's still there. And one of the stories that are also in his books but also on his website is about the experiment in Wörgl. You spell it like W and then a O with dots on top.
Oh yeah.
And then RGL.
The German umlaut.
Yes, it's umlaut. Yeah. So it's a experiment in the financial crisis of the 30s, and there's this small village, and they run out of shillings, and economy collapses, and then the mayor decides to do something, and he's actually creating a kind of IOU system stamped by the mayor. So that's basically a kind of trust system there. And then they could see that this small village was because there was a lot of work to be done, and so the money's, or not the money, but
the tokens,
the
IOUs,
tokens, so to say, they start circulating, and it's just dynamic as they haven't seen in a long time. And so neighboring villages start to adopt the system as well, and then suddenly it becomes so popular that the government says, "Hey, stop it! I don't like it." So that was the end of the experiment. But it was like really well, and it shows the power of what you can do with a local currency. And so that's why I drafted this plan for a currency for The Hague. In The Hague we have this very famous guy. It's called Haagse Harry, and
you can see that on the screen, I think.
Yes, it's a guy that everyone in Den Haag loves. It's loved by the people who are a bit like him.
It's like city mascots, right?
Yeah, but it's also loved by the people who live in the rich neighborhood of Benoordenhout and are proud on The Hague. So because it's
just a symbol.
It's the symbol. It's The Hague and the humoristic side of it. So Haagse Harry is able to connect people, and if you have like a local coin, you can you can do stuff with that, and especially now because the government will probably need to spend money on the economy anyway. So if you let's say in example you use money to save restaurants, then you spend money once, so to say. You say, okay, I give you 10,000 euros, and with the 10,000 euros they pay rent, or they pay the taxes or whatever. But then and then the 10,000 euros is gone. But then the people of The Hague are still not helped. But if you would give like money to the people of The Hague, and you ask them to go to restaurants, they might do it, but they might also spend it on AliExpress, or on a web shop from Amsterdam or whatever. So as a municipality, you're not sure where that money is spent. But if you would create a Harry coin, you could say, okay,
this you can spend only there.
Yes, we distribute Harry coins to the people of The Hague, and they represent a value in euros, and they can only be spent with entrepreneurs from The Hague who are like registered in the Chamber of Commerce as a The Hague company, and they are the only ones who can actually get euros for the Harry coins. And then you actually
help the community to help the businesses instead of like
just
putting the money to just give the money.
And then you helped
both sides,
two parties in one deal. So it's the same 10,000 euros, but then first the people are happy, and then secondly the business is happy, and then it circulates a bit bit more, of course, because it also gets spent in salaries and stuff like that. But the effect is bigger, and you could do all kinds of stuff with that. You could also say, okay, if you work for the municipality in The Hague, 10% of your income will be paid in Harry coins, because you spend 10% anyway to local retail. So and if it has to be 5%, it's also fine.
Yeah.
Let's say you get a tiny part of your salary, not in the regular euros, which you can spend anywhere, but in Harry coins, which you can only spend in local businesses. Then you support your local business. So and that's an effect that has been researched by Bernaliteur but more economists have researched it, and it's a very powerful tool to get dynamics back into local economies, and it's being neglected, and it's a great opportunity. So we should not complain about the euro or whatever. The euro's there, and it is. Some people like it, some people don't. It's good for international trade, but it's bad for local differences. That's what we also see. But we can fill in the flaws in the euro with local coins. So this is just a start. It starts with Harry coin, but we can also do it in Amsterdam with a Johan coin, which I also suggested. A reference to Johan Cruijff, and I was also thinking we could do one in Rotterdam, named after Jules Dilder. And we can just do it everywhere in the world, and that would be fun.
Yeah, it is very weird when you think about it that we get this technology, innovations. We're just like in a peak of our possibilities, and you can do almost whatever you want. We have computers that they can compute massive information data. People are going to space. Did you check yesterday's SpaceX? Didn't launch. It launched on Saturday.
Exactly.
And we're still using this monetary system that is ages long, not fair, not transparent.
Yeah.
And somebody's on top of it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like it's. I would say that it's not enough innovation in the monetary systems.
Exactly.
Thanks God to Bitcoin and everything, but these functionalities, it's not only about the monetary system, but it's also about different functions to help and accelerate information flow, accelerate computing, accelerate or help projects to do something easier than it used to be done harder earlier, something like that.
Yeah, so another fun project that I brought with me today is the Marmaris credit loops, or Marmara credit loops. I pronounced it wrongly.
Marmara credit loops.
Yeah.
I did not hear about this one. Maybe
no, because we are not living in the region. But Marmara is the region around Istanbul, Turkey, and they were used to create value with each other by using post-date checks and other like analog ways to actually it's basically IOUs. I give you this check of $1,000, but you are not allowed to claim it before the end of the summer. So it's
like food stamps with a
so
activation date instead of expiration.
Yeah, it's an old system that they are used to use
support
to actually
locals.
to make financial bigger financial possibilities. So and a guy professor from the university there, he actually thought, well, people are like already familiar with this system, but it still has some drawbacks. So sometimes a check is you want to claim it after the summer, and then the bank says no, it's not there, so you can't pay it. Stuff like that happens probably. So he created a system based on this Komodo blockchain technology, where you can build applications on top of blockchain. and it's called Marmor Credit Loops. And then he basically puts the trust into the system, and also you lock coins in the system, and it's a digital, it's a new digital way of doing what they did with these checks before, and it's pretty interesting because it's kind of money creation outside of banks. It's kind of DeFi, and people are also allowed to earn like rewards if they keep the value in the system.
Yeah.
So it creates possibilities for passive income as well. So it's very liberating, interesting, innovative project. And for us, it's a bit hard to understand because we don't work that way in the Netherlands. So it's
where is it based? You said Istanbul, right?
Yes, yeah. So, but you should check it out. You know, it's projects like this, experiments like this that are like really local and really empowering people.
Absolutely.
And that's I think
most of innovations I'm getting from you. You're the future information that walks around. You know, like it's so weird. You know, before I got to know blockchain and crypto, it's a quite confusing topic at first, but when you kind of start to understand it, you know, you're like, wow. I mean, we're talking future now, and people don't see it, though you would think that it would be inevitable part of us evolutionizing, you know, like growing through this evolution, and we're at the peak. What's further?
Yeah, more
why
peaks,
we have all this technology,
and
we're not implementing it to make our lives easier, but we kind of still continue to do old school stuff, and you know, the 1% against 99%. What we're doing?
We really need to change that, and of course, I'm just like a curious kid who happens to talk to a lot of other curious kids, you know, and we share this ideas in a rapid pace, and then a lot of fun stuff comes on the table. So but I don't have all the knowledge, of course, of all these projects, but it's a community thing. And if you look at the young people, you know, the people who are raised with these kind of technologies, they are expecting this to happen, and they will force it to happen, and they are very I think they're very powerful in creating a new fair society, because they have nothing to lose in a way, you know. I mean, our generation used to have houses, or used to care about a beautiful car, and therefore you would be slave of your job, because if you quit your job, you have to sell your car, you have to move out of your house.
stability.
You know, these millennials, they don't have a house, you know. So they will explore, and they will force things to happen, and that's really cool.
That's a beautiful future that we're looking into.
Yes, I hope so, and I will help these generations also to
Absolutely.
make that reality, because I think it's important.
Godspeed.
Exactly.
Hey Bart, it's pleasure that you came today. I had a really nice conversation with
really
you.
Fun, man.
Maybe you can tell where people can find you. Do you have a website? I think we have your website on there.
Yeah. So
Bart
it's
van Maarseveen.
bart.vanmaarseveen.net. That's a website. There's also my contact details there. And you can. Well, I hope pretty soon you can find me again each Friday here in the Hague Tech, and otherwise go to blogbar.nl.
Blogbar.nl. We have another link for you
there
guys.
is a link to the VR space in which we meet every Friday morning, Amsterdam time, at around 10 o'clock, 10:30. Yeah, so be there, and there's always some people hanging out there, and most of the time I'm there as well.
So at this point, Coin Collect, you must do the KYC before buying, right? Is it already
No,
changed?
so we actually removed the buy option.
Okay, so you
because of
cannot
this.
buy anymore.
So you cannot buy anymore, and we're working on a new one, and then you have to. Unfortunately, you have to do KYC there. And we're exploring options that you would not have to do KYC, but they will never be as easy and fast as you used to have it.
Let me quickly check if we have any questions in the Discord or YouTube, so we can straight away answer that. We don't have any questions. That's easy. So, I would just want to say thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we're gonna have another conversation about a little bit better nowadays later this year,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.